So this is the very first Ranch and Range podcast, and I got thinking about everybody that I could have on as guests that could talk about ranching. And Vade's upside down.
I'm trying to
He's
figure
got
this out.
and
Never done this
there's
before.
guys that you could talk to about soil, and there's guys you could talk to about buying ranches and valuing ranches. And but I got thinking the one group of people around ranches that always seem to have a pulse on what's going on are the guys that drive cow truck. So I thought I'm going to do something that not many other podcasts do, and I'm going to start with the guys that drive the trucks. And the reason I got to thinking about this is about July, Jack Payne, who runs Nevada Livestock Marketing, got on Facebook and said, I can tell you that the cow market is legit and it's going to be legit for a long time because I called to get truck drivers and I could get loads for I could get somebody to haul all the loads I had. And he goes, that's when I knew the inventory was down and that we are in for a different type of market. And I think that that sort of speaks to like how important truck drivers are in ranching. And both Mike and Vade both haul cows and hay and whatever else they can do to get by. So I thought this would be a good conversation and something that if you're going to invest in ranches, just something to keep in mind. You should keep very close attention to what your truck drivers are telling you at the shoot because they got all the goods. So, anyways, I'm gonna introduce Mike and Vade and let them tell you a little bit about themselves, and we'll get started. Um, Vade, go ahead.
What do you want to know? Like just basics.
Well, yeah, just how you got into truck driving, maybe what you're doing before. Vade and I go back a ways. He helped me on my ranch for a while, day working and stuff. He's seen a lot of the country, and now that he's truck driving, he's probably seeing a whole bunch of different side of it.
That is very true. I see a lot of things, and the one thing I will say I see a lot of is stuff that doesn't work and stuff that does work, but it seems to be more often it works, but it's not very fun. So I worked for Richard, like he said, for a long time, for about 2 years. Him and Jason, and then I was tired of being a cowboy and not really having anything, and I thought, well, I'm kind of broke, so I could probably go drive truck for a little while, and then I went and run my run my butt off for a couple years, couple seasons. And the money got pretty tall, and I thought I was feeling pretty good, so I bought my own truck, and now I'm down back in the basement, but that's all right. We'll get out of it. It'll be all right. But my main deal is cattle, livestock, sheep, um, drill stem, and hay. That's my main commodities that I haul or move around. And it goes. I'm from the Midwest to the West Coast, and I try to particularly deal with ranchers themselves. That's my main customer that I focus on to serve.
Right on. So Mikey and I go way back. I've known Mikey since I was in sixth grade, and ever since I've known him, he's been all about truck driving. And not only has he not only has he driven truck for me, hauled my cows, hauled my hay, but Mike and I also worked in a emergency response company and hauled mobile kitchens and showers and all names of weird equipment and yeah, in weird places. We even went to the Salt Lake Olympics, and Mike was the primary truck driver. And on many occasions, he impressed all the guys at the Salt Lake Olympics with where he could put some of the equipment. So uh, Mike, since the beginning, has wanted to be in truck driving, and he got there. And so go ahead, Mikey.
Yeah, like Richard said, we grew up together, went to high school together. We had a lot of fun together. We've worked together everywhere in a lot of different places, a lot of cool places. Um, I grew up in equipment and trucks and around cattle, around horses. Um, and I've done a lot of different things in life from running equipment to working in gold mines to everything. And I always come back to the seat of a truck. And I finally decided to, 9 years ago, I decided to become an owner operator. And sometimes I wonder about that decision, where my frame of mind was at the time. But I don't think I could go back to work for anybody but myself again. Um, and I haul anything from cattle to hay. I'm hauling logs right now because I didn't want to do the fall run with cattle, and I don't want to deal with going into California with hay anymore and all that good stuff. So I decided I want to stick at home. And yeah, it's been an up and down. You're not going to be rich by any means owning your own truck, not by any means, but you can get by and you can make it.
I guess my next question would be, so going back to, I think I want to know what your guys' impression is of like when the cattle market really started to take off and what you guys started seeing before and afterwards, because it's still hot and it seems like it's going to be at least for another couple months. But I think that, and I think a lot of people concur, that the cattle inventory is way down.
Oh, it is. Um, like last winter when it really started taking off, or last fall when it really started taking off. I primarily haul for Simplot, and I haul all their local stuff here for the ZX Ranch, and then I go from here to Idaho with their calves. Last year, their feedlot was down so low that we hauled out 9,500 calves in a month, just out of Lake County up to Grandview, Idaho. Um, and that normally takes us till they normally string us out till the end of February doing that, and they wanted that inventory in their feedlot that fast.
Yeah, what's their feedlot?
150,000 head capable.
Yeah, and a lot of that's dairy, but they still got a lot of beef.
Yeah, yeah, and they're part owners in CS Beef Packers, so they send a lot of their own. They do a lot of their own beef to there.
Yeah, and they have a really. Maybe we'll talk about that. They have a really cool system for producers. When did you start get an ear that the market was going to take off, Vade?
I thought it was going to take off.
Or like, when did you start thinking maybe this one was going to last and not be as sickler as the last ones? Like it was sort of here to stay, and there was something different about it.
I honestly keep thinking that it's peaked. Like every fall, it seems like, oh, this is probably it. These are some of the highest numbers I've ever seen, and definitely like my first first full fall run, like just going hard. It was like there was like 10 or 12 of us. It was nonstop every day, and nobody was loading with one another. We were all going different directions. And then the next fall, I mean, it was like we were all just singled out again. And it was like last fall was really good. This fall seemed like it went really short. It was really quick. But I think a lot of people are getting such good prices on their heifers by just getting rid of them, just selling them, that they're going to continue to make or get their payments as low as they can. Their ending balance as low as they can before they start retaining much. If that makes sense.
No,
my thoughts on it, because it seems like there is not enough. And like I've been watching the markets anywhere from Iowa to Montana, North Dakota, Texas. You can still buy a broken mouth cow for $1,800, but you cannot touch either an AI bred or a bull bred heifer, replacement heifer, or second calf heifer for under $3,000. They're not there. They're nowhere. I mean, if you can find them, kudos to you for finding that group of unicorns. But you're going to work for it. It's not going to be easy, and I think we're going to continue to see that for quite some time.
So here's the interesting thing. So you guys know about the screwworm, right?
That's what's got the border shut down.
Yeah. So a lot of the cattle previously came through Mexico and went up into the Midwest, and now they're trying to fill up the Midwest because the cattle coming out of that is because now they're trying to fill up the cattle that would normally be the Mexican calves in the wheat ground in Midwest. So Vade, as you're going around, are you seeing a change in the way that the cattle are getting distributed differently than what you'd seen in the past?
Last fall I seen a lot more cow trucks south, like I-10, I-40. This year I haven't seen hardly any. Really in Texas, like this spring, I seen a handful, and I'm assuming those guys are probably coming out of Florida when I was hauling bees out there. But I did not see hardly any this fall. And
They're pretty thick up.
I'm kind of curious as to what I'm going to see this spring out there. But like everybody talks like I've been to Joplin and I've been around and I've seen some of those bigger sale barns before this last spike. Like it was probably in the beginning of this last spike when I was still living in Adel, and it was unreal to see how many cow trucks they could fit in one gravel lot. It was insane back there. But you don't see them like now. You're not seeing them. You're not seeing them anywhere. They're I don't know where everybody went, but it's like they're not there.
I noticed fall run, there was a lot of new trucks out here on the west
Oh, there
that
was.
I'd never seen before. A lot of different trucks I haven't seen before. So like what you're saying, they're not back there.
They
guys
must have
out
come
here.
out here, and I just
Yeah.
wasn't seeing them.
Yeah, they're out here running.
Interesting.
So what I think is an interesting change, and this is like, granted, this is supposed to be a podcast for people that are just sort of getting their feel for ranching and people that do understand it. But I think one of the biggest changes to the West Coast was the sale yard in Cottonwood shutting down and
I
how
would
it
agree.
changed how cattle move around. It opened up Fallon, I think, considerably. It seems like Central Oregon livestock market
Has grown
really,
quite a bit.
yeah. And
Hmm.
then even our local one here at Alturas, the Modoc one, it is I think 2 weeks of the sale they had 2 weeks ago was a record number of cattle they've ever sold. And I think that previously a lot of the West Coast cattle were pretty much destined for California or from crops or like cover crops in Idaho or Washington. But now I think with Fallon and maybe to a certain extent Central Oregon, some of those cattle are getting bought, getting on a truck, and going back to the Midwest.
I know I hauled the last winter. I hauled 3 loads, one to Wyoming, or two to no, one to Wyoming, one to Colorado, and I think 2 to Colorado. And it was like odds and ends that like why would anybody ship it? But he must have a niche for it out there because I mean his whole feed yard was nothing but odds and ends, various sizes, cull cows, bulls, whatever, and they came right there from Fallon to eastern Colorado, and I thought that's quite a little ways, but if it works, it works.
Well,
I know when Shasta was open, I mean, it was 2, 3 days a week. I was making runs to Shasta. I had at least guaranteed 2 days a week that I was running to Shasta. And then as soon as they closed, it was just like, man, the door slammed shut. And then they started going somewhere else,
yeah.
Orland, like Fallon and stuff like that, but some of those guys had their own trucks that would come up and get that stuff. But I mean, Shasta was a big deal around here for a long time.
Oh yeah. I think it's a weird switch. I think that Shasta going out probably helped Fallon the most, and Orland second.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I guess we'll get back to some more fun stuff, but uh, Mikey, what was your favorite truck driving job as far as cow hauling or hay hauling, or what was the one that you enjoyed the most?
Oh, I don't know. I kind of enjoyed them all to a point, and then there was a point you didn't enjoy them. But um, I don't know. I loved going down to California doing fall run. For like running your stuff down to Brentwood and stuff like that, and then just some of these guys around here. I loved doing that, and then the politics got into it with the California deal, and I just decided I'd cut and run. I didn't want to do it no more.
So you guys, Vade's in California. Mikey made a conscious choice not to go to California. Can you, Vade, give us a little background on what's changed in California and why it's tough to truck there? And I guess the other thing you talk about is there's still a gob of cattle in California, and they split their time between a lot of different states. And what kind of challenges that makes for a truck driver, especially with them moving whole herds in the spring and the fall, the spring and the.
Well, one thing that's really going to hurt us down here is Newsom and his new mileage tax. He's going to put like I believe it's like 40 cents a mile. Is it No, not a mile. I got
God.
that wrong. It's 40 cents a gallon. Excuse me. It's 40 cents. I think it's 40 cents a gallon is what he's going to impose on us.
On
Just
top of
the,
the dollar that it's already IFTA?
yeah. So that's going to go on the fuel. So um, I don't want to get too into detail with some of my own historical stuff here, but um, a while back, I was always taught, if you know about how many miles you're going to run, you can figure your truck's going to get 5 miles a gallon. Just if you try to base off about 5, you're usually pretty good on your IFTA stuff. Well, I was way off. Well, I was because I was running in and out of Nevada to California, and so fuel's $1.50 a gallon cheaper out there, so I was taking advantage of it. Well, that got me in the third quarter, and they got me good. And I'm like, I asked my licensing guy. I said, How is? I said, I know I bought it, and he goes, well, no, you didn't, because California, their road tax is so much higher. He said, yeah, Nevada covered about $300 of it, but you still owe a fair amount, so cough it up. But that's one thing. Another thing is California. They're doing this emissions stuff, and I don't know how true it is. I haven't got a chance to really sit down and dig through what Oregon has done, but Oregon supposedly has passed this carb deal. This carb compliance stuff that we're facing, there's going to be a lot of good trucks that just because they don't, put air back out that the bumblebees can. Well, I guess it's not even with DEF, that kills them too. So, I mean, you see what it does the other side of the bridges and everything else, but that's beside the point. That's another thing that's going to kill us is this carb deal. It's crap. We don't need it. Like this.
Well, don't you have to go smog your truck now once a year just to get a California license for your truck?
I don't have a
If you,
no.
but if you're licensed in California,
I'm not licensed in California.
I realize that, but I think the guys that are have to smog their
Oh,
truck every
correct.
year just to get licensed.
Oh, yes, you are correct. Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
every year. It's not, and I think they
and
said I
that's out of your pocket.
right.
Yeah,
That's out of the owner operator's pocket. It's not like it's
yeah,
some fund that you can go sign up for. No, that's directly out of our pocket.
yeah. You have to pay for it. You have to take the time off from work, travel down there wherever their dam station is,
Right.
and do it. It costs you. Not only does it cost you the price of what they're charging you to do it, it also costs you a day of work, maybe two
Right.
days of work, whatever.
Probably, yeah, day of work, day of travel, something.
Yeah,
2 days minimum.
the fuel to get there, all
Yep.
that.
Yeah. That's another thing. I could go on and on about this stuff. It sucks. I mean, there's a lot of it that sucks, but in all honesty, in a way, I would say it's probably a good thing because it's eliminating a lot of the crap drivers, crap companies. Rates were sky. Rates were what were rates to spring of 22? We were given what, like 6.85 a gallon for diesel, and so we were
Like
7.50,
seven and a
$8.
quarter a mile.
Yeah, and I know that purple truck 3.8. That was all she did. Uphill, downhill, 55, 75, 80, 80,000, whatever, like 30,000. It didn't matter. You got 3.8, and that hurt. $1,800 a day. That was rough. But thank God the fuel prices have come down some, but they're not anywhere near where they should be. I mean, diesel's still over $3 a gallon in Texas. I looked today, and I couldn't see it anything under $4 a gallon. Under 4.12 was the cheapest I seen, and that was in Sacramento, and that was from Sacramento to Bakersfield.
I think the interesting thing is then what does that put on a load per mile now?
Fuel's typically 30 to 35% of your cost. That's not
Right.
counting tires. That's not counting insurance. Like that's 1/3 of every load is just that you need to pay for. Is just that you have to pay for. You have to budget for is your fuel.
So
That's
the way I figured is by the head. And I was figuring 4 years ago, it's about $4 a head to go down to Central California, Bay Area.
Okay.
And now it's 7 to 8 in a short amount of time. My math off?
I don't know. I've never figured it out by the head, but you're probably not wrong.
Well, what do you, how much did you see almost a doubling in your mileage cost in 4 years?
Oh,
This is my. I mean, the rates have come down quite a bit since I've started. Honestly, because I didn't start. I mean, I did like local stuff in Adel for those guys, but I was just getting a day wage. Mikey can probably answer this question better than he's been. I mean, this is only my. I'm only going on my third year of operating on my own. Second year.
yeah. I mean, I've never calculated out by the head. I always did it like Vade said. I was on the high end. I got really, really irritated and nervous when my fuel costs were over 35%. And there was times that you
There's nothing you
were,
can do about it. You're just
yeah,
running.
there was times you were. And then like when you get in Oregon, you got to pay 26 cents a mile.
Yeah, because it went
Every
up.
mile you run in Oregon, you know.
Yeah, it went up.
So yeah, and it's going up again here shortly, I guess, from what I gather. And you know, so you got to factor in all that. And I'm trying to remember, like 9 years ago when I started this, we were, God, rates per mile were going down into California. I mean, we were somewhere around the 375 to $4 a mile 9 years ago, and now a couple of years ago when I was going into California, we were seven and a quarter a mile just to cover costs, and we weren't making hardly anything because your tires went up, your insurances went up. My insurance doubled, and I have a clean record. My insurance literally doubled, and for one truck, one owner operator, and that's all stuff you have to factor into your prices and everything else that you're doing. Like tires, my God, tires are stupid, and if you don't run a quality tire, you're going to spend more time alongside the road broke down with a cheap tire than you are to go buy a good tire. But all it takes is, coming out of somebody's driveway, having a narrow gate post, and we've all been into their places and rocks and stuff like that, and you hang a tire, and there you are, $700-800 out.
Flash a sidewall
Yeah,
and a day or waiting for somebody to show up to come
yeah,
if you
yeah,
can't make it, if you can't get out.
Or some jackass sends you out to pay his bills.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. There again, when I go to places like that, I put the I don't want to go price on it, and a lot of people take that price because nobody else will do it.
Right. Nobody
And
else
then
wants to go beat their trucks around.
yeah, and then that's when I have to be a man of my word and I have to go do it because I gave them a I don't want to go price, and they go, okay, we'll take it, and I'm like, good God, I should have went more.
See, people just love Mikey. It's all right. They just want to see him at the shoot. That's
Yeah.
all there is.
That's where you
I wanted to talk a little bit more about cost, but I think the interesting thing about what one market that you can see that the price of hauling that 58,000 pound load, absolutely
48, buddy.
sorry,
You are
how many axles you
I'm
drag?
thinking I got my rancher hat on. You can fit a few more.
no.
No, we can't. Not that much.
I got a skinny one in the back.
You know how many times I've heard that?
No, I think the one thing I noticed this year that the market that truck driving absolutely just killed, and part of it's the cattle inventory, but the hay market. And we're way out there where we raise hay, but I think it's not just affecting where I'm at, but it affects a lot of people because now the cost of hauling the hay is so prohibitive that
See
people
what? But we're getting a backlash from the hemp growers. Remember, like what 4, 5, 6 years ago, there was everybody grew hemp, and there was no hay. I mean, there wasn't no hay to speak of. So we were given $350, $400 for shit feeder hay. Last year's hay that'd been rained on, stacked outside, and now these guys are crying and whining because, I mean, fertilizer went up, big whoop. Everybody else's inflation has gone up too. Like, I agree, it needs to level out at some point, but there's nothing we can do about it. But I think I think the hay deal is a backlash of all the hemp because everybody was like, "Oh, let's go hemp, let's go hemp." Well, then the hemp market went bust, so everybody's like, "Well, we got to go back to hay," and then, well, now what the fuck are we gonna do?
Yeah,
Because
and all those guys are going back to hay. Yeah,
now they're all trying to go back to hay instead of like splitting it up. I don't think you can grow cotton out here, but they could have went corn or some of these guys could have, they could have went a different route. They could have planted something else to try to help offset it, maybe, or pasture,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, I think maybe pasture. A lot of those places might actually be better as pasture, but I'm a little biased. So
yeah, I'll get a little excited on this hay deal because that's now you're talking my language down here.
well, yeah, like from what I noticed is it affected me. Well, of course it affected me because I'm in the middle of nowhere. But it seemed to really I saw the lowest prices coming out of like Central Oregon, Christmas Valley, and around Winnemucca in northern Nevada that I've seen in years. Those guys they're not getting the same prices that they used to, not by a long shot.
Right. So I was hauling out of Nevada this summer back to California, and I don't know how I got so lucky to catch this conversation and I felt really bad for the scale clerk and the hay grower, but he was like, he was losing it because his hay wasn't moving, and so they finally lowered the price to an acceptable price that somebody would pay for it, and he I can't remember the exact number, but it was 62 something. And he gave me like maybe $62.37 an acre is what he was losing. Like it was incredible, and he's got thousands of acres in Nevada of nothing but hay. And he's like, I'm losing money. And then he turns around, and looks at me, you have a nice day, and walks out. And I was like, well, I don't know what that was all about. All right. And then the scale clerk filled me in, but I felt bad for her because she's just standing there shaking, eyes getting big. And I was like, well, nothing. It's not her fault. It's not my fault. We're just the people working. But what can you do? It's not our fault that fertilizer went up and nobody wants to give $350 for rain down feeder hay.
No, there's no cattle to feed it to. So,
and then it didn't help that the dairy market tanked too, and a bunch of people went out with the dairy market.
Oh, that was crazy this summer.
I think that had a lot to do with it as well, because a lot of the dairymen, like where I was at today where I dropped those sheep off was a feedlot. Like you could tell it was a sheep feedlot, and there was nothing but one pen of goats there. That was it. And it must have been a milking parlor or something of a sort, because there was a brick building there that looked like an old milking parlor. There was not a milk cow. And I haven't seen the numbers of milk cows like I did a couple years ago in California.
Oh, I think there was a big something went side. I know secondhand through a truck driver that like some of his he sells hay or trades hay up and down the West Coast, and he said that a lot of his clients that were in the dairy business just called it quits last summer. It was
because the price of milk wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I didn't know until last summer that milk was regulated by the government.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They sort of let it fluctuate, and they try and make everybody whole. But for some reason, the money that they count on a certain type of year for the milk to go up so they can make it, and then this year it didn't happen, and those guys were so on the edge that a lot of them just didn't make it.
And I think because I did talk to a few guys, and I know a few guys that their families had a dairy, and he was telling me, I can't remember the exact number, but he told me they had a truckload of hay delivered one time, and this was last year or year before when the hay market just went stupid, that it was like almost $400 a ton to have this dairy quality hay delivered, and that's the other thing is dairy can't afford to pay that,
Right.
And I think the hay farmers, I don't want to rag on them too much, but I think they got a little overzealous some on their prices, and they did drive a lot of this stuff their own.
Right.
Because I was hauling some hay for some people that they were, my God, it was like $275 a ton. I'm looking at this going, my God, I wouldn't have paid $125 a ton for it.
Right.
But they thought it was gold because that's where the market had went to, because everybody got short of hay there when California wasn't getting all the rain. And when they did get all the rain, then it washed out a bunch of they weren't getting the grass and they had to feed. And,
right.
And I understand let's jump the price up, but some of those prices went way too high for even normal people to survive trying to buy.
I agree. Yeah, when people are giving $25 for a 70-pound bale of like bluegrass. Come on.
Yeah. It didn't cost that farmer that much to put that one bale up.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
I've never dealt with little bales much, but I mean, what does it cost you, like $3-4 a bale to for that bale?
I don't know what the cost is on it, but like for the trucking.
No, but I'm talking the farmer himself. You know,
Oh,
what's his
gotcha.
overall cost per bale? What, probably what, $3 a bale?
I don't know. Richard would know better
I
than
think
that because him and
they
Jason
do
used
it by the
to.
ton, just like
Sure, but if you did it by the bale, some of these guys, I mean, I know some of these guys. I know a guy up in Eugene that has a barn that he buys hay from down around this area and he gets it shipped in and he might give you $14 a bale for it and he's selling it for $22 a bale.
Right.
You know, it didn't cost him $22 a bale to get it there. You know,
No.
it might have cost him overall price $16 a bale,
yeah,
you know, buying it and trucking it.
Right.
$14 a bale, I'd be happy son.
Yeah, but that's just the number of, you know, but I mean, you look at some of these feed stores, like Fade said, you know, down in California, I bought little bales down there at like $22 a bale,
Oh, it's bonkers down there.
you know.
But picky market.
Yeah. So I called trying to find some rice straw today. Oh, I stopped by the local feed store just because it rained. Anyways, I was gonna throw some straw out for the calves in the barn that we're feeding, and $14.50 a bale in Lincoln for straw
For a little bit,
for a little bale for a
good
70-pound bale, $14.50.
I remember when it used to be $25 a bale for a mid-sized bale, rice straw, just to get it out of their field.
Right.
You know,
Like I got some the other day in Yuba City. It was $9 a bale, and I thought 30 miles difference. How's it $5 more a bale down there, and it's the same damn hay. But they'll get it because I'm sure there's probably the right horse people down there that will pay it.
Oh yeah.
But
So let's go back to the cost.
it's expensive.
Yeah, like talk about insurance. I think that's the biggest expense. That's the biggest expense. There. Oh, we talked about fuel, but insurance is huge. And Mike talked about tires, but they're looking at another 21% increase in insurance 2025 for all automobiles, all classes of automobiles. That's what they were talking about on the news today.
My insurance when I renewed last year literally doubled, actually more than doubled. Uh, um, and I had a clean driving record, never had any accidents, nothing. I mean, well, the one speeding ticket I did have at one time did go off my record, but
Right.
you know, it was clean.
Right.
And my insurance doubled. And when I called my agent, she couldn't give me an explanation. I called the insurance company directly, and the only explanation they could give me was inflation and all the claims that they've had to pay out.
So you
And
you need to pay for everybody else's mistakes. Is what they're telling
that's
you?
what I asked him. I said, so I have to pay for everybody else's accidents, you know? And she said, well, this is the way the insurance game works. And I was like, ma'am, I have no claims. I've had no speeding tickets. I've paid you on time for 8 years, and here you are, like more than doubling my insurance. And I carry decent insurance. I carry cargo insurance through the same company, and they more than doubled my insurance per month.
Jesus.
And this year, if you're saying it's going to go up again, that makes me worried what it's going to go to now.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
You know, I mean, that's for some of us, you know, we don't have deep, you know, we work our butts off and, you know, parts and tires and everything else. Sometimes we don't have deep pockets to pay for insurance over the full year. So it's got to come out monthly. So you've always got to make sure you have that money in that account every month. Your fuel bill, your insurance is your two main things with a truck. If you don't have those, you're not running,
Yeah, you're not doing nothing.
you know, and your fuel guy comes, you know, your fuel guy and your insurance are pretty much in a constant battle of who comes first.
Or the
You know.
mechanic.
Yeah.
One of my buddies told me the other day, he said these trucks are like, he said they're like horses. They know it. They can smell when your bank account's got a low in it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yes, you can. Oh buddy. When you got that little cushion, then all of a sudden you lose a transmission. You're just like, oh, well, there's 10 grand down the drain. And
Right.
it's literally, that's what a transmission costs for a truck. It's $10,000. I've had to buy 2 of them in 8 years. It's not fun.
So I guess that's the next question is, do you see more owner operators or more companies buying their own trucks and running their own trucks?
I'm starting to see a lot more people getting multiple trucks and just putting drivers in them. I see a lot of owner operators that just get tired of all the BS anymore. All the,
They don't want to deal with it with what we're dealing with.
yeah, your federal requirements, your state requirements, um, your insurance, your fuel, um, all your like parts, like Vade said, a mechanic. I mean, used to be a mechanic. We used to bitch and moan about a mechanic being $100 an hour. Now most shops are 120 to $140 an hour.
But
Mm.
so last year, California upped their deal, or this year, I guess it was. I keep thinking it's, anyways, $10 an hour. Everybody had to jump $10 an hour. So I went to write a check this spring to have like, I can't remember what I had done, like the rear main structure or something done. I had some downtime, and I was like, well, tired of watching the oil run out on the ground, so get it done. And I said, what's the bill? And he shows me and he says, labor's this much. And I said, that seems kind of high. And he goes, went up $10 an hour. Deal with it. Thank your governor. Well, he ain't my governor, bitch.
Yeah,
But
it's almost like they're just making it almost impossible for the little guy to even succeed.
I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to force it into you have to be a fleet in
Yeah,
order to move down here.
yeah. And it kind of goes the same way for like the farmers and ranchers in California. I mean, the little guys are all getting shoved out, and all your big corporate farming's coming in, and corporate ranching and all that stuff. Because now you have to have all this compliant crap down there, and these guys with these little places, and they got a compliant tractor, and every 5 minutes it's broke down. They got to call a tech out there to fix it. There's another big chunk out of their pocket to have to come fix the dang thing.
I
Well,
think this is it. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like the small engine deal that they passed in California, you can no longer buy a gas powered small engine. It has to be like, you
Oh
can't
yeah,
buy like a weed eater or lawnmower. You
has to
can't.
be electric.
It has to be electric.
Huh.
Yeah, and their infrastructure can't.
Where
Power
are we gonna
grid.
get the
Their
power? They
power
took the
grid,
dams
their
out.
power grid can't handle it. I mean, you hear on the news all the time in the summertime when they're asking people not to charge their cars and not to charge this and that, and
Not to
because they're
turn their
having a
AC
rolling
on
blackout.
at certain times during the day, or not.
Yeah,
They have a lot of times when they can even water their lawn.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that made me think of something interesting. So like Mike can attest, I once had a CDL, and it's a miracle I had it. But I don't mind hauling straight trucks, but I was horrified to haul cattle. I think it's a certain type of skill set. And like you gotta be able to do math, you gotta be able to figure your weights up and down. Talk about like some of the unique skills that truck drivers have. And then like I've noticed that I'm getting truck drivers that are just getting into it where all my life all the truck drivers I had known had always been truck drivers, and that was like their specialty, or log truck drivers. And now I'm getting guys that are like jumping into cattle truck driving, and I'm wondering where they're coming from. And just talk about like what's different about cattle truck driver than regular driving, and just it's sort of, it seems to me it's like going to be a lost art. And that's maybe where one of the things where this having fleets is going to be a problem, because hauling cattle is a lot different than hauling regular freight.
You get a feel for it, but you also can't just throw any Joe Blow into doing it. I mean, they've got to learn. I mean, there's Vade can attest. You got to have the feel for it, and you got to know where to put the cattle, because it's a live load. It's always moving, and you got to give them enough room. You've got to know once you do it enough, you know exactly how your trailer is going to load. You know how much weight you got to put up on the front of it, how much weight you can put on the back of it, and that's always how I load my trailers. What I go on the front and on the back, and then I put I divide everything else in the middle. But I've seen guys, and I've been at shoots with other guys where they have no clue how to even load their truck, and they call for a number for like their nose, and you're putting like 9 weight calves, and they call for 10 of them to put in the nose, and you're just like, what? You can't put that up there, you know.
Yeah, on like a 9 foot nose.
Yeah, and they literally, I watched this happen, and the owner of the cattle was standing there with the look on their face, and I'm like, why didn't you say anything? I mean, they literally tried to jam the whole front nose, and I'm like, you can't do that. We had to go peel him out of there, and then we had to sit there and help this guy figure out how to load his truck. And it's like we're going from Cottonwood, California, all the way to Boardman, Oregon. These cattle have to have room. They have to be able to get up if they fall down. If you pack them in there so tight, and one of them falls down, he's not getting back up, and he's going to be dead by the time he gets there. Or we're going to have to stop somewhere, and you're going to have to unload, and we're going to have to readjust your load. Um, and then comes, Vade's seen it. Vade and I both seen it. Cow trucks on their sides because guys take a corner too fast and everything shifts and go over to the side, and there they are laying down, and you take out a whole bunch of cattle in the trailer. And you
Yeah.
got to have people that do it need to have livestock sense, and I'm afraid that they're putting too many people in the trucks that don't have a clue what they're doing around livestock.
Yeah,
Or
it's almost like they're like, well, somebody will teach you. See ya.
yeah,
I mean, in all honesty, like, and I think the biggest problem with a lot of these people is they're not brave enough to say, hey, Mister in the black hat, or hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is my first load, or they're scared that somebody's going to yell at them because they screwed up. Like, 10 foot, 10 foot. Well, let's take the first trailer that I had at 60 for example. It was a hermaphrodite trailer. It was like an 11 foot 4 nose, and it had a 9 foot back step, so 14 foot centers, and you had to have a 4 axle semi. You had to have a truck with a pusher to load it correctly, and you had to load that that had to go heavy to the front, which was like a reverse spread. So like the trailer that I own now it's a 9 foot nose and a 14 foot back step. I mean, it took some figuring out, but that took some getting used to. Going from a closed tandem to that one trailer was, well, the one trailer I had, like, it had like a 2 foot tuck, and it was a closed tandem to a trailer that the axles were set. There was a closed tandem that they set all the way at the back to the spread. It was a whole different ballgame figuring it out, and it was a lot of just playing and messing around and calling and talking to other guys on the phone that have done this for years and years and years, saying, "Hey, like, I don't know. What do you think? Does it work? Is it going to work?" And it wasn't until a guy tried to tell me this years ago, but I didn't understand what he was saying. But, well, that first ball that me and Mike ran together at Adele, I didn't understand because I asked this old guy that I worked for a long time ago, like at the Springs, because he used to dispatch for Clarson's. But anyways, he said, "Oh, there's a formula," and he sends me this picture. Well, I didn't understand it, but then last fall I went to work for a guy out of Utah, and he broke it down, and if you add all your footage together and you divide it, take your total deck space footage, which should always be like 90, 96, right? Not 96, 92, because you can't, if you have a 3/4 doghouse, if you don't, it's like 90 or 88 or whatever it might be. And you take that and you divide it by your total head count. So say you take that 88 and you divide it by 74, and whatever that number is, if it's like 1.4 or whatever, that's how many you can put in each compartment. Like but you have to know your footage in each compartment for it to work. But like a closed tandem, like Mike's got, will always load even. They'll load water level is the best way to explain it. a spread will always load heavy to the back. That hermaphrodite trailer that I had loaded heavy to the front. But that's something that you got to know and you got to take into account, because a lot of people, like I've seen some of these spreads, they'll start out 8'6", 9 foot nose, 10 foot front section of the belly, and then it'll go to like a 12 or a 13, and then a 14-foot back step, and that's where you got to know where to put your weight to be right on, and you got to know the width of your spread, your 8'1", 9'1", 10'1". You got to know what you are, so you know how great you need to make your split, or not.
Mm-hmm. I pulled a 51-foot spread for a couple of weeks while my trailer was broke, and that was a very big learning curve for me.
Change it up a little bit.
Said, I was on the phone. I was on the phone with a bunch of guys that I knew pulled spreads, and I'm like, how do I even begin to even load this up? Because I've pulled my 48-foot tandem,
right?
Just like you said, I know exactly how much weight I put on the nose and how much weight I put on the back, and then I can split, my dividers in the center.
Right.
And it's all, once I figure it all out, I pull up. Rancher gives me the weight. Some do. Some just give you a guesstimate, but that's the other thing.
I don't know any guys like that.
That's the other thing. When you're a cow truck driver, you've got to learn to eyeball cattle, because sometimes these ranchers like to tell you, "Oh, that's a 450." No, that's like a 475. Come on, buddy.
Oh, these calves are only weighing 5. They are every bit of 6. I guarantee it.
They're right there, right there. Yep. And the first trip I took with that trailer, I was like a bear cub playing with his pecker. I couldn't figure out what I was doing with that trailer, and I felt dumb. But I got on the horn to some guys, and I'm like, what do I do? How do I load this? It's got a 3/4 doghouse. I've never had one like this, and the guy that owned the trailer told me, well, he's like, well, you kind of do this, you kind of do that, and, then you got to figure this out. And I'm like, man, you're making this way too complicated for me. I need just some simple, draw it out, simple stick figures for me here. And a couple other guys I called, they're just like, oh, okay, well, do this, do that, but that's a huge learning curve for like me. And I've done it a lot of years. And I mean, I hauled my first load of cows in 2001, for another guy. And, but I'd never pulled a 51-foot spread. And that was, you can't just throw, like you said, oh, well, somebody will help you figure it out, or go figure it out yourself. Boy, somebody's going to be pretty frustrated trying to figure that out themselves. And the good thing about being a cow truck driver, you got so many contacts. When you're in the cow truck world, there's a lot of, I got hundreds of contacts in my phone. I call up, Vade, I call up anybody, and usually most guys, they give you what information they can. They want to help you out.
Yeah, most people aren't there to get you hurt or screw you. Because ultimately it's the cattle that are going to pay for it. It's not just you; it's the cattle too. And
yeah,
and I feel most of the guys that are in this are doing it for the livestock, whether the rates are good or bad. Whatever the road conditions might be, they know the cattle got to go, so they're for. Like, I know one guy. It was and I don't know what winter this was, but he's told me this story a few times. He ordered plugs for his trailer. They never showed up, and so he took plywood and put it down the side of his doghouse and wired it in so that and he was hauling like a bunch of 350 4-weight calves. Hi, dear. So that those calves could stay warm. Hauling out of steel barns. And, I mean, if that doesn't show you what animal husbandry is, that's...
Yeah.
Somebody that just says, oh, they'll be fine, load them and go type deal, they're probably not in it for the right reasons.
Well, we're going to wrap up. I got some questions, but I want Mike to talk about the decision he made this year, because he was all in cow hauling or hay hauling, and then he made a decision. Go ahead, let everybody know how you penciled everything out this year.
Well, last year was a rough year. Like I said, the feedlot was pretty low, and normally we go through the month of February hauling calves, and I get 2-3 loads a week, and a guy can survive until everything picks back up on that, and you get a little savings account. And last year we hauled everything out of this area up to Grandview really fast, and there I sat in the middle of January with nothing to do. and I scraped by, and thank God I had a savings account. And I had bought a truck that was a log truck and also came with a sleeper the year before, and I had made the choice last year to put the sleeper on it and just go haul cows like I normally do. And it was, to me, was a bad business decision because I had another truck just sitting there I could have used to haul the cows, but I just wanted to use that Kenworth because, it's a nice, pretty truck, and I wanted to be, out there just rolling with it. And
K Whopper.
yes, sir. And um, and I look back on it now as it was a poor decision because I should have kept it a log truck because I could have jumped in it and went right back to work, when there was no cows moving. And it's a lot of work to change that truck over. It's not a quick change deal. You just don't do it overnight. And this year I decided I wasn't going to go do the Idaho run because there's lots of timber moving right now, and there's going to be a lot more timber moving. And I was offered a spot to go haul for a guy here locally, and I just decided, I'm not going to do the Idaho run this year, and I'm just going to park my cow trailer and I'm going to throw my log gear on, which took a week and a half to get my truck where I wanted it to be. I could have just been a scab and threw everything on there and then dealt with problems all week long or all month long or every day to try to, but I wanted to make sure everything was right. And that's the problem with doing that. I just can't switch back and forth immediately. And, last year when all the cows were done, there was nobody around here that had a spot for a log truck. So I was in a pickle. So I made the decision this year, I'm not going to put myself in that pickle. I'm going to be, running every day. Yeah, it's not the big money we make with a cow truck, but, you know, big money actually, once we go the miles and all the other stuff we got to do with, it kind of equates out to the same. I'm sitting at home. I'm making the same kind of money sitting at home. And I get to sleep in my bed every night and not in that sleeper with my dog because
Well,
he's
Sam.
getting, Sam takes up a lot of that sleeper bed.
Yeah, Putch
And,
does too.
you know, and I'm a big feller, and a 32-inch wide mattress isn't very comfortable for me and a full grown border collie to sleep in, and he refuses to sleep on the floor. He's kind of a bougie bitch. But I decided to do that, and I think it was the right choice to do this year because there is lots of work for my log truck. And yeah, I'll keep my Simplot deal that I got. I'll just use the old Frankenliner. I've got a new motor I'm going to stuff in it in March, and we're just going to go back to trucking cows in May, and I'll park my log truck. Or if I can find a cow truck driver, I'll put a cow truck driver in for the month of May. If not, I'd just go do it myself. And this guy I'm hauling logs for understands that. And I just I just felt it was the right direction for me to go with my truck because Vade knows sometimes some of these places take a long time to pay you, a long time to pay. And that's the one thing I did want to say was guys like Vade and I, we operate sometimes on a very fine line, and there's some outfits that'll pay you right away. I mean, Richard's always been spot on paying me right away, but then there's other outfits that, they hold you out for 60 days on a chunk of change, and you can't do that. You can't survive very long doing that because you're robbing Peter to pay Paul because every time another check comes in, you're paying a back bill and you just never can get ahead. Even though you're getting a good check coming in, you're always trying to play catch up.
Vade, you diversified. You do all sorts of stuff now. What are freights do you take? What other freights do you do?
What other freights do I do?
Yeah.
So this spring I got to hauling with a guy that owns a heavy haul company locally down here, and he's in Arbuckle, Todd Hartill, and we were eating dinner in Alturas one night. I was just throwing a Hail Mary, seeing if he ever had any local work, because down here, if you're not already established or people, you don't have a buddy, you're not going to get any work. And he said, sometimes I do, yeah. So I give him my phone number, and I was hauling hay, and it was dying out, and it was like two loads, and then we're gonna hold off for them. So I was like, okay. So then I'd go back home and I'd start scratching around trying to find something, phone calls, and nothing was really. And so I was like, well, I'll try Todd. And so I tried him, and apparently he wrote my phone number down wrong because he had no idea who I was. But I got lucky. He had a bunch of stuff, and I got tied in with him, and we moved a bunch of machinery. Like I hauled a rock truck, an off-road dump truck. I moved one of those for him. I moved some skid steers with like log or like wood, like a wood mulcher. I moved some equipment like that for him, but a lot of it was just basic construction equipment, job boxes, crane mats, load. I think I hauled the same load of crane mats like 4 times for him, and that's something that I really enjoyed because it was like well, this is easy. That's some of the other stuff that I do. The drill stem, I do a lot of drill stem, and now I've got guys that we've got a customer in Nebraska that buys these freestanding drill pipe panels. He builds them, I should say. He buys the pipe from us, he builds them and then sells them. And then I had a guy contact me looking to buy them. I said, well, I know a guy. And so it all pieced together. So now I get to go to Nebraska here sometime now that the weather's wonderful and make my way out there and back. Trying that out. See how they ride. The honeybees, that's another one that moved really good. That I would never guessed. Honeybees. I really enjoy honeybees. The people are like, they're for the most part they're pretty down to earth. They're good to get along with. They're fun to visit with, and you get to sleep at night. It ain't like cows. You don't get to sleep. You just go find a dark spot and go to bed. Wake up in the morning, start it over again.
You don't have to worry about DOT pulling you in either.
Oh yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Really?
Like the ones in Montana, they'll watch. They'll know. They'll nab you when it's still cold out, still cool enough that they're not trying to fly yet.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I got pulled over this. I got pulled over this fall, with a load of bees on, and I knew he was thinking I was going to be way overweight because I was climbing a hill slope in Montana. And, I was just taking my time. I was in no hurry. I had 3 days to go 1,800 miles. It's pretty easy driving. And anyways, he pulled me over at the top, and he put his scales out on every axle and went through, and he dipped my tanks, and he went through the deal. But they were starting to fly, and so by the end of it, he was itching to get going. But it didn't help. I helped the bees out, waking them up by running on the rumble strip for a while because I seen him pull out around me or whip around. And I knew he was coming. I just got over and I just started riding the rumble strips, making sure everybody was awake, ready to go to work.
Okay, so that'll be a clip.
That'll be the next one.
Yeah, it'll be a clip for sure. All right, so we'll wrap this up. I want to know what's the good news you're hearing at the shoot? What's the bad news you're hearing at the shoot? Go ahead, Vade.
Good news is cattle prices are still staying high. That's about the best I've seen, other than the sheep market tanking. Kind of really putting a spin on things for those guys. That really sucks, but cattle are still strong. Horses still seem to be strong. Good using horses are still strong, so that's good. Rates seem to be staying pretty strong. A lot of people seem to have a lot of optimism now that Trump's back in office. Fuel price is going to come down, and we're going to get back to work again, which I hope he's right. Hope everybody's right. What about you, Mike?
That's about the same for me. I haven't done, like I said, I just do mainly the Simplot deal, and I just a lot of local stuff around here, and everybody's the same thing. Cow prices, everybody's tickled to death with the way the prices are. Ranchers are finally actually making a little bit of money.
Right. Everybody getting jacked up. Like there was a bunch of these loggers starting, like wanting to cut wood and move wood. Mills starting to open up and take.
Yeah. Well, what I'm doing now is, we were down there the other day, just sitting around while we were rained out, and the forester stopped by, and he said he just wants us to move to a different job where we're going to be on Pummy, so we can, because he needs our 20 loads a day out of the company I'm working for. And this log yard here is pretty pretty slim right at the moment for what they normally have in inventory this time of year. They don't have the inventory they normally have, so they're sawing. And yeah, I think we're gonna finish up where we're at right now, and I think they're gonna move the saws and everything this next week um, to the new job we're going to over by Sprague River because even if we get rain over there, we can still go.
Right.
Because what we're on right now is a Forest Service job, Forest Service roads, and we can't play on that very much. And so yeah, I think the timber market's even going to be good.
I think it's going to stay open up and get pretty strong.
Yeah, well, like you said, with Trump coming in, I think interest rates and everything else are going to go down. People are going to want to start building houses. People are going to be able to afford to build a house. Stuff like that, before interest was too high, nobody could afford to build nothing. And
I think the forest fires got everybody checking there.
well, and that's the thing, like the job we're doing down here, in California. That's the one thing I wish Oregon would do that California does do right. And I hate to say anything that California does anything right, but
as soon as something burns, they open it up for a timber sale and
immediately.
Like green timber.
Yeah, but the job we're doing right now, the timber spacing that they're doing is amazing. It looks beautiful the way they're cutting it, and it's all green timber. They're doing preventative maintenance rather than doing it after the fact. And that's the one thing I noticed California's always done is the way their logging practices are way better than Oregon. And it's stupid because it's the same entity. It's Forest Service.
Right.
But it's different state and different people different managed.
Same feds, just in a different state.
Yeah. But the way they do it down there and the way they have them log it is amazing. And I've been on several California logging jobs in the past, and it's always been that way.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. That was a good one. I knew the truck drivers would impress.
We wouldn't let you down.
Huh?
We wouldn't let you down.
No. And I didn't have to wait around at a shoot in the morning for you, so.
Bring me coffee or donuts.
Oh, yeah. You guys always get there.
Wait a minute. You're saying you wait around for us?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, occasionally.
The truck drivers are usually there an hour or two, get an hour or two nap at the shoot before they got to leave again.
Well, you got to wait for me to sort all my cattle for the 14th time, too.
Vade and I both know that very well.
Only because somebody came in after dark and was like, I don't know where this stray goes. We'll just stick it here in the buck shack.
Oh, that still happens. If those cattle will come in unbranded, I'd be a millionaire.
I have no idea where this went. Buck shack.
Yep. Just put it there.
Great spot for it. No.
All right, guys. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
You too. See you guys.
Yep.